Welcome back to Unplug with Mel. I'm your host, Mel Mosier. Last week's episode was the phenomenal Javon Glasgow. If y'all haven't listened to it yet, I hope you make some time for it. He just was incredible, and I still continue to refresh back to that interview. But we're on to our next one, and it's the lovely Leah Outten. I'm just so honored for her to come on this podcast and to talk about her memoir that she wrote about her open adoption of her first child. It's a process that she just unwraps with us very eloquently and talks about the struggles in that and how she is dealing with all of that and how the book came to fruition. So join us on this journey on Unplug with Mel. You can hear us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and iHeartRadio. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. We hope you enjoy.
Welcome, Leah, to Unplug with Mel. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to see your face and talk more directly.
Yes,
Yeah.
because we have only known each other through the virtual world. We have never met in person, but we've known each other for about 12 years because our kids are now 11. Or is your daughter about to be 11, or has she had a birthday already?
This Friday. Yeah,
This
so
Friday,
she'll be,
yeah.
yep.
Oliver is the early bird right after New Year's is his birthday. But we found each other through Facebook, through a birthing board for moms. And there's a group of us still who stay in touch through the journey of our kids' lives. But in that, we've got to know each other as women. And your journey is just inspirational. And so as I was starting this podcast and launching, you were just starting to launch your first book, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So I reached out to you going, how about you come on my podcast and just share how it unraveled, who Leah is and how that began. And so I don't introduce your bio, your story. The guest does. So Leah, who are you? Could you take us through the journey of your life, sharing key moments and experiences that have shaped who you are today, including notable setbacks and challenges and the strategies that you use to overcome them?
Absolutely. I love talking about my story because I do hope that it inspires other people, and that's why I've been constantly sharing who I am and my story for the last almost 20 years, like through blogs and other things like that. So, in a nutshell, I'm a birth mom of 19 years in open adoption. I have 5 kids that I parent. I have had 2 unplanned pregnancies when I was a teenager and chose 2 different paths. And through those experiences, in my personal experience, like God has done a lot of things through those hard times, and just using them to not only grow me, but to make connections with other people and to help other people know they're not alone. And it's just been it's not always easy. There's a lot of complexities and there's a lot of, grief and loss, but there's also a lot of beauty in it too. So I love talking about all those things. And um, what began all that, and really what my book is about, it's a memoir that will cover all the things of how I grew up and what led to my adoption decision and how that is played out over the last 20 years. She'll be 20 this June. Um, and so for me, I was an unplanned pregnancy as well for my parents that were in college at the time. And while I had a relatively good, I have good parents, they were trying their best. Um, but in those, I grew up in a divided home. My parents never got married. And when I was growing up with my single mom, I was often in childcare and with other babysitters. And in those moments, I was sexually abused. And so I feel like that was kind of the beginning of one of the first hurdles that I had to like start to overcome and to process as I got older.
Mhm.
And that just created this wound in me. and just feeling unprotected or unloved through part of my childhood, and it just felt very chaotic. I moved around a lot, um, and so it was my childhood felt chaotic. And leading up into when I became a teenager and hormones started happening, I feel like I used a lot of that unprocessed, pain and things like that to seek attention and affection from boys. And by, 16, I found out that I was pregnant, and he was the longest person that I had dated at that point, but, it wasn't a good situation. We were kind of doomed anyway. We weren't even together when I found out I was pregnant, and he decided to really said, "You should choose abortion or choose adoption because I really want no part of this."
Mm.
Um, and because of just I loved this baby already and really felt like, um she had a purpose in life, and it wasn't for me to decide, um, to change that. And so I
Mm.
just felt led to, like, I just knew abortion wasn't for me, and, told my parents, "Hey, I'm pregnant." And thankfully they were very, very supportive and just extended a lot of grace and got me into counseling right away and really loved me through those really hard moments of where I was dealing with a lot of things and trying to process the rejection from her birth father while also figuring out what do I do now? It feels like it could be the end of your world. Like, and it is in a way. Like it's
Mhm.
your life will never look the same once you're pregnant, no matter what path you choose after that. And
That's
so,
correct.
but wrestling with all those things, and thankful I had the support and the love I did because that their love really showed me that I am lovable and that I deserve love too, and I deserve good care, and I can make better choices to become a healthier person. And their love encouraged me to like continue to do that. Um, and so like my pregnancy with Kaylee, my first daughter, really was that defining moment of really figuring out what I wanted in life and what I wanted to look like because I felt like the path I was on, I was not who I wanted to be, and was constantly, you know, seeking attention and affection and love from outside versus finding that love within myself and for myself. Um, and it, it was great to have support from my family to be able to have a safe place to land and all that. Um, and I really was set on parenting for a while because all I knew back then, 20 years ago, was closed adoption, and I couldn't imagine never seeing her and knowing her, or for her to think that I didn't want her, that I didn't love her because I already loved her so much. Um, and so I really was set on parenting, feeling like that was my only option. And as much as I wanted to, I still couldn't find peace with it. And so my parents encouraged me to make an informed decision and to make sure it wasn't um, that if adoption wasn't what I wanted to, explore it and then rule it out. And, I had parenting plans in place too.
Mm.
And I talked to other teen moms, I talked to other birth moms, and that's really what started to shift my thinking about adoption was learning about open adoption through other birth moms and adoptive moms who had that relationship. And it was really eye opening to see that that was possible, that there was this middle ground that I could get on a better path for myself and to graduate high school and to become a healthier person while still allowing her to have more stability in her life with a mom and a dad who were ready to parent and um yeah, while also still being connected in her life and for her to know that I'm here to answer her questions and to know who she looks like and that I love her and um all those kinds of things. So open adoption um just felt like something that if I could have a relationship like that, then I think I could do adoption. And so I still wrestled with it for several months. And by 7 months, there was one day where um, I went on a hike with my mom, and just the view at the top of the outlook, just for some reason, the Lord spoke to me there and just felt like trust me with the plans for your life. Like, just like you can see the big picture here, I can see the big picture for your life. And I need you to trust me with your life and this baby's life. And I really felt like um, the I describe it like a veil kind of being lifted off my eyes at that moment of where I could then see um, what our life would look like if I did parent her. And I really wanted her to have a different life than what I grew up with, of that the single mom household. Nothing against single moms, like they're amazing too, but I really wanted her to have a different experience and to kind of break those generational cycles that we were in. Um, and just provide her with a different life. And I just felt like God calling me to trust that. And from there, I found a family that had the same vision of open adoption that I did, and lived a few hours apart, so we were able to get to know each other quickly and in person for the next 2 months of my pregnancy leading up to her birth. And it you know they were I could just feel their character and their integrity from their profile book and into our conversations together, of just making me feel like I was an important person in their life, or just as a fellow human being that has feelings and emotions and thoughts and desires as well. And that they kept saying things like, "You're an important piece to her life puzzle, and we want you here to help fill in these pieces that we can't." So I really just felt like they loved me too, and we just had built this mindset of an extended family. That we have different labels, but it's a different kind of blended family together. And having I think having that was a big part of not only my adoption of decision of adoption, but just also like the healing that has come after that, because I've still been such a big part of her life. And then I've been allowed to take up that space. Um, and there were just things that God did in that time where it was just so clear that this was the right decision for us. One of those that I love to share is her name, because I chose her name, Kaylee Ann, when I was pregnant and found out she was a girl and was really set on parenting. And when I chose adoption, I was like, she already is, Kaylee Ann to me. Would you consider keeping the name the same? And they were like, well, we already have a name, and it was Kayla Ann. And so it was things like that that just kept reassuring that this is the right path for us. And obviously they kept her name the same, because it was such an interesting thing that we have all the names. Those are the ones that we had chosen.
Very
And they
similar.
were, yeah, and they
Yeah.
were they're both filled with family names from both sides. And so it really just honors like our whole vision of having this like blended family together. Um, and a piece of her identity on both sides. So, um, yeah, so through the last few years, it's looked very different of our relationship. Um, we had an agreement of where we would visit at minimum 2 times a year, every June, which is her birthday, and then every Christmas time. And that has always held true over the last 19 years. But in between that, we would, whenever we could have a visit, we would, and or have, back then there was a lot more emailing and um, printing out pictures than the digital world it is now. But they've always just been so inclusive um, into their lives and allowing her to be a part of our life. She's come to stay with us for extended visits through as she's gotten older and has more of a voice into her adoption experience as well. And so that's been a really big blessing for not only our relationship, but for the kids that I have here that I parent, and their sibling relationship. Um, so in all of that, I don't know, there's more than my adoption story. um,
That's a great way of taking us down to your journey and the sharing the key moments. Um, in this, I would take it with the experiences that shaped who you are today. I mean, that's a pivotal one, allowing someone to raise your child was still having an active role in there. Was there any notable setbacks and challenges that you went through in this journey from even after the open adoption experience?
Yeah, I would say my second pregnancy was a big step back because it was like I'm on this healthy path. I'm making good decisions. I'm not dating. I'm not doing the same habits. Like I went off to college. Um, I had saved money for my job. Like I was on a good path. And then my freshman year, I met my husband. And so while I hadn't dated for several years, um, like meeting him and he was totally different. Like he was no like nothing that I'd ever dated before. He was a healthy person, but just the not having fully I think I'd healed a lot of things, but I hadn't worked through, okay, what does relationships really look like now? And how do I not fall into the same habits to keep a person around? And so I think that was a big, and just not having the accountability of family nearby. Like we're on our own, we're independent, and you feel like you're an adult, but you're still kind of, you're on that weird line in between um, growing into an adulthood. um, and so meeting my husband was a really wonderful thing, and we felt like we were going to get married from the very beginning. But finding out I was pregnant again, caused everything to happen sooner, which God has worked out totally fine. But it was a huge step back in the sense that my parents and his parents and everybody, like our worlds were rocked again. And it wasn't the same grace and understanding because it's like we were just here. Like, why are we doing this again? And so that was really, really, really difficult and a harder experience in a lot of ways than my adoption experience because the support looked different. And I had to go into maternity home because nobody wanted me. That's what it felt like. And they, but God used that too, of where um, in the maternity home, I was able to get a good job and just save up a lot of money and just again restart and get back on track and to learn about God's character and grow my relationship with Mark and learn even life skills of like cooking and all those kinds of things that I needed to be a wife and a mom. And we got married when I was 19 and the year I turned 20. So it it got back on track, but it definitely felt like a setback at that time. And I think for me, it's just constantly remembering that we're human and we're going to get sidetracked sometimes and we're going to get off track. But if we're um, in those moments, being intentional about like, okay, how can I get back on the path that I'm supposed to be on? And like it's never too late to keep trying to do that and learning from those mistakes and but also allowing God to use those things for good things. So for example, one of the things that I share in my book is because we were married young and we had a new baby, we Mark and I both finished college for free with scholarships and grants. And so like that was something that wouldn't have intentionally pursued, but God used it for good to help bless us for like coming back to him and his path for us and making good out of it. So um I think that was the biggest thing. I've also had lots of episodes of like postpartum depression because I've had 5 kids since then. And those have been kind of mental setbacks as I'm trying to figure out um, I'm not only as a young mom, which you may relate to this, that I'm not only figuring out how to grow up and become independent and um, love myself well, while also figuring out how do I be a mom well, how do I do all the things and balance all the things, and learning health and how that plays